PC gaming is stronger than ever, and 2017 will definitely be no slouch. I'm Andrew the New Guy, and today we're talking about the best new PC games of 2017. And really quick, these are the most anticipated games we're looking forward to, unless one of them gets delayed after we make this video, which would be pretty unfortunate, but these are PC games we think are worth caring about throughout 2017. Starting off with number 25, we have Ghost Recon Wildlands. Ghost Recon Wildlands is an open-world tactical shooter that's being developed by Ubisoft, and this is the first time a Ghost Recon game is taking an open-world approach, and it's going to feature a day and night cycle, dynamic weather system, and different terrain. And all of this needs to be taken into account when completing your mission. But how you approach completing your mission is really up to you. You pick your own gear, the time of day, and even how you approach your objective. You can drive in, walk in, sneak in, or you can even skydive. Now the game can be played solo or with 3 other friends that all play as their own customizable ghost. And if you don't feel like running through the main missions, the open world is available for you to explore, and there are even side missions for you to run through as well. I know Ubisoft doesn't have the best track record for releasing games on PC, so hopefully they can figure their shit out for this game. And up next, number 24, we have Mount & Blade 2: Bannerlord. This is a prequel to the first game in the series, and this takes place about 200 years before. The developer Tailworlds has promised significant graphical improvement from the original game, and they're going to use motion capture to create character animations. And Tailworld has also said that the game will feature, and I quote, up close and personal medieval combat on a huge scale, bigger, bloodier, and more intense than ever before. So that's cool. Anytime I've ever seen like a medieval battle in a movie or read about one, they always do seem very insane and gruesome and just super hectic. So if we get to possibly get a cool way to relive a battle like that, I'd be pretty excited. The environments in this game also look super pretty, so you'll have a beautiful world to run around in. And next on the list at number 23, we have Friday the 13th. This game was originally being developed as Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp, but was able to acquire the license to the Friday the 13th franchise. It's an asymmetrical multiplayer game where multiple players play as Camp Crystal Lake counselors and one player controls Jason. The point of the game is for the counselors to survive and escape the camp before the timer runs out or before Jason kills them all, and then obviously if you're playing as Jason, the point of the game is for you to murder everyone. And just like in the movies, Jason is a powerhouse. He has heightened vision and hearing and is able to teleport anywhere on the map. And the creators of this game are really taking it seriously. They have some amazing people working on their team. They have Kane Hodder, who played Jason in the later movies in the series, and he's back doing mocap and the stunts for Jason. Also, Harry Manfredini, who composed the music for the first film, is composing this game's soundtrack as well. I'm a huge fan of the Friday the 13th movies, and I'm really excited to get my hands on this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And next, at number 22, we have Dusk. So let me just start off by saying that Dusk looks awesome. I can't wait to play it. It's definitely for fans of Doom and Quake. It's a first-person shooter that has the feel of a very violent 90s shooter. The graphics give it a very eerie vibe, and the enemy types, while looking very simple, do come off as very eerie. The game has 3 different campaign episodes, a 1v1 multiplayer arena, and an endless survival mode where you just take on waves and waves and waves and waves of enemies. And if you haven't seen the trailer for this yet, the way the game does play, this endless survival mode is probably where I'll be spending most of my time. And next, number 21, we have Quake Champions. Quake is back. At E3, Bethesda announced that id Software is working on Quake Champions, and it looks awesome. It's going to be a fast-paced multiplayer shooter with a ton of different characters, each having their own unique skills, and watching the gameplay for this game really gets me excited for it. Most of the competitive shooters that are currently out right now feel really the same and don't play anything like Quake Champions, and I'm really excited to see this game shake things up a bit, and I think that this is a very important release. And up next, on number 20, we have Absolver. Absolver is a melee-based RPG that relies heavily on martial arts. While the developer doesn't consider it an MMO, you will run into other players whom you can trade with, fight, or befriend. And in this game, you play as a warrior who is traveling the world of Adal, trying to prove his worth to become an Absolver. The Absolvers being a sort of peacekeeping organization. The game has PvE co-op and 3v3 ranked PvP, and not only do you customize your fighter with different loot-based weapons and equipment, but you also customize how they fight. You build up your moveset using different cards in your combat deck, which build up by progressing through the game, and you can have 4 different fighting stances on the fly that have their own moveset, so you can switch through all 4 and build up really good combos. And moves do have speed and damage ratings that you'll have to take into account when building your fighter, and the game itself looks just as great as its combat does. And next, at number 19, we have Star Citizen Squadron 42. Yes, the guys behind Star Citizen are releasing a different game than the one they actually promised to a ton of Kickstarter backers. They released a trailer for it over a year ago that has Gary Oldman's character giving a speech, and It is a really cool trailer, I'll give them that, but then again, it is Gary Oldman, and I think he's just able to take anything and make it cool. You take on the role of a rookie UEE Navy pilot during an offline single-player campaign that spans over the course of 3 episodes, and supposedly each one has about 20 hours of gameplay. I honestly don't know when we'll see this game or Star Citizen for that matter, but I really just want something to come out. It's easy to poke fun at Star Citizen, but honestly, everything about both games sounds so damn cool, and I really want it, and I do want this game to come out. And next up, at number 18, we have The Surge. The Surge is an action RPG, and the best way to describe it, I guess, would be like a sci-fi Dark Souls. It comes from Deck 13, who developed Lords of the Fallen. It takes place 60 to 70 years in the future, where all the technology that the humans rely on has turned against us, and now it's bad. You play as a human survivor, and you're rocking this chunky-looking exoskeleton that you'll be able to upgrade and mod throughout the game. The combat in this game seems to be a little bit more fast-paced than Lords of the Fallen, and it seems that the developers really want to get away from their games being called Dark Souls clones, so they plan on changing it up a bit with this game. But the combat seems fun, and the world that you're playing in seems cool, and it's definitely a game worth checking out. And up next, at number 17, we have Vampyr. This is the next game from the creators of Life is Strange, which, by the way, I love, and it's weird to see them completely switch it up for their next game. It takes place in London during the 1918 flu pandemic. You play as a vampire who is vampire by night and doctored by day. The game has an awesome dark and gritty vibe, and it's the perfect setting for this kind of game. And you can go the entire game without killing an innocent person, but if you do, then you can't level up. Leveling up does require you to feed on human blood, but it isn't as simple as finding a random person in the street and just drinking their blood right there on the spot. You have to study your targets, learn about them, study their day-to-day life, and then you have to build and maintain certain relationships to actually gain their trust. And while the game does seem drastically different from Life is Strange, I love that game so much, so I really do put my trust in these developers to make an awesome game. And up next, at number 16, we have Ruiner. Ruiner is a top-down cyberpunk shooter, and it's another awesome looking game brought to us by the guys over at Devolver Digital, so thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. It takes place in the year 2091, and you play as someone lashing out against the corrupt system, trying to find and save your kidnapped brother. The game has top-down combat, and you'll make use of different types of melee weapons, guns, and gadgets. You can go in guns blazing, or you can slow down time to pinpoint who and how you're going to attack. I definitely have faith in Devolver Digital when it comes to awesome looking top-down games. I mean, look at Hotline Miami. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and if this game is on par with that, then we're going to have an awesome game to play sometime this year. And next up, at number 15, we have Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. The newest game in the franchise is supposedly a return to form for the series, and it's getting away from the action-oriented gameplay from the last 3 games. But this isn't a reboot. It takes place 4 years after the events of Resident Evil 6, and there will be references to past games, but for the most part, this game does take place in a brand new setting and has an entirely new cast of characters. You play as Ethan Winters, your everyday man who isn't a jacked soldier like Chris Redfield, and you're looking for your missing wife. And his search leads him to a rundown plantation mansion in the swamps of Louisiana. And it seems that you get stuck in this mansion and you're being hunted down by the Baker family, who happens to live there. Not much is known about this game story-wise, but we do know that it isn't an action game, and while there will be combat, it isn't going to be a run-in, guns-blazing type of game. The game does play in first person, which is a first time for a main series Resident Evil game, and the game is also fully playable in VR, but for the first year will be exclusive to the PlayStation VR. So if you were looking to play this with your Vive or your Oculus, you're going to be waiting for a little bit. At number 14, we have Sea of Thieves. I don't think anyone really knows exactly what to expect from this game. I mean, it's essentially like a pirate simulator, I guess. You're placed in an open world where there are other players running around, and you just do pirate stuff. You build up your own ship, travel to islands, and look for buried treasure, and every player you run into can attack you, and vice versa, and if you get killed, your ship and treasures are all fair game. So they're open to the entire world to come grab, unless you can get back to it fast enough before it all gets stolen. And there's supposed to be a lot of customization too, so you really do get to create your own unique pirate and your own unique playthrough. And for your ship, there are different classes, sails, colors, and figureheads. I just keep thinking about how awesome Assassin's Creed Black Flag is and how down with pirates I was after playing that game. And I always joke and call that game Pirates the video game, but it seems that Sea of Thieves is actually going to be Pirates the video game. And up next, at number 13, we have Dreadnought. This is a space combat game where you're the captain of a big-ass spaceship, and you're able to choose from multiple classes of ships, each with with their own strengths and weaknesses, and the gameplay is made up of carefully positioning your ship and picking your targets before you launch your attacks. You also have weapons, engines, and shields whose power you can reroute to make a certain part of your ship more powerful, but by doing so, you make another part of your ship more immune to attack. So you really do have to strategize your attacks in this game and be wary of what's going on around you at all times. There's also multiplayer that utilizes all the same gameplay aspects found in the single player, but place you on a team with other players fighting against another team of players. And up next, at number 12, we have Pyre. Pyre is the next game from Supergiant, who also brought us Transistor and Bastion. Now, it's a party-based RPG where you play as a band of exiles who are traveling purgatory looking to defeat other exiles so they can cleanse their souls and return to the real world. What really stands out about this game is the combat, because it doesn't look like your typical combat. Honestly, it doesn't even look like you're fighting at all, but more of like playing a sport. There are pyres at each end of the field, and there are 2 teams of 3 exiles working to throw a glowing orb through one of the pyres. And just like Supergiant's other games, the game has a very interesting and distinct look to it. They've made very good and interesting games in the past, and this one looks no different, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. And up next, at number 11, we have Halo Wars 2. Halo Wars is back, and honestly, it looks like not much has changed, and if it's not broke, why fix it? This RTS takes place after Halo Wars and Halo 5. It pits 2 factions against each other, the UNSC and the Banished. It has a single-player campaign that's made up of 13 missions, and then there's a few different multiplayer modes as well. And so far, everything I've heard about this game seems really great, and I'm always down for a solid RTS game, and I think this is going to be one of the good ones that we get this year. And next up at number 10, we have Night in the Woods. Night in the Woods is a crowd-funded game where you play as May, who has dropped out of college and returned to the town where she grew up. But home isn't the same, something has changed, her friends who she left behind have all grown up, and there seems to be something strange going on in the woods. You'll have to explore and talk to a huge cast of characters to figure out what exactly is going on in Possum Springs. There's a huge emphasis on exploration here, and it looks like we're going to get a bit of platforming as well. And when I see the game, I can't help but think of Oxenfree for some reason, which was one of my favorite games of 2016. So I'm already going to this game with the mindset of it being just like one of my favorite games of 2016. And up next, at number 9, we have Crackdown 3. This was announced a while back and has been floating around since then, and we really haven't heard much more about it other than that it's supposed to be released this year. It's going to make use of Microsoft's cloud computing tech to make the environments highly destructible, and there's some gameplay released, and it seems that it plays exactly like Crackdown plays, which is a good thing. That's exactly how I would want this game to play. I spent a ton of time playing the first Crackdown, and Crackdown 2 was pretty good too. I had a blast with both games, and I'm super excited to be able to spend more time in that world. Up next, number 8, we have For Honor. For Honor is Ubisoft Montreal's newest game, and it's an action hack and slash game with an emphasis on competitive multiplayer. Players will get to play as a soldier from 3 different factions, the Samurai, Knights, and Vikings, and you choose from one of 4 classes to play as. And like I said earlier, while there is an emphasis on the multiplayer here, there is going to be a campaign where you play as all 3 factions, and the developer has said that if you are buying it solely to play the campaign, that you should still get an awesome experience out of it. Up next, number 7, we have Outlast 2. Outlast 2 hasn't seemed to change much from the first game in the series. It's still a first-person survival horror that does away with combat and focuses more on hiding and avoiding enemies. Just like the first one, you have a camera that uses night vision, and that's how you see and get around. The story is different this time around. You play as Blake Langerman, a freelance journalist who was stranded in the desert after getting into a crash with his wife. And of course, in this desert lives a bunch of cultists who will of course be out to get you. I'm getting agita just thinking about it. I did get to play the demo, and I must say that it's just as creepy as the first one, and I can't wait to never beat this game because I'm just terrified to play it. Up next, number 6, we have Battletech. Battletech is a turn-based strategy game that's based off the tabletop board game that's been around since the 80s. And while the developer says the game will have the spirit of the board game, it won't have the rules of it. You play as a mercenary who takes control of a group of 4 mechs. You'll be choosing the model, skills, armor, and other specs for the mechs. In the game world, there are noble houses fighting for control, and you can choose which house or houses to work for. It plays just like other games in this genre, and the maps look really cool, and watching the mechs destroy each other is a blast. Up next, number 5, we have Prey. We're finally getting another Prey game after the sequel to the original was cancelled. Prey puts you in the shoes of Morgan Wu, and you're stuck on a space station with a bunch of angry aliens who make certain decisions that will affect how the story plays out, and you'll also be able to gain the powers that you see the hostile aliens using, like having the ability to turn into a chair or toaster or other everyday objects. Personally, I would have liked to see Prey 2 happen over this reboot. The idea of being a human bounty hunter on an alien planet just seems so much cooler to me than this, but I still think this game does look cool, and it's definitely something that I'm going to be checking out. Up next, number 4, we have Strafe. Strafe is another 90s style Doom-esque shooter. This game is all about the gameplay. The shooting looks chaotic with a bunch of different guns at your disposal, and the game is semi-procedurally generated. All of the enemies, upgrades, and such are all placed randomly on the map, which is built up by pulling random sets of rooms from a pool and mashing them all together. And most importantly, it is playable in VR with the Oculus, and this is definitely something that I need to experience in VR. And up next, on number 3, we have Mass Effect Andromeda. So Andromeda is finally coming this March. Actually, I didn't expect it so soon, and there really isn't much to say about this game because, well, there really isn't much to know. We're all still kind of left in the dark a little bit with this one. This time, you're in the Andromeda galaxy. You play as one of the 2 Rider twins, and it's your job to discover new planets for the human species to colonize. I really don't have to say much more. You guys know what Mass Effect is, but I am super excited, and this is one of my most anticipated of the year. And up next, number 2, we have Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 3. This is an RTS game in the 3rd in the Dawn of War series. After a catastrophic weapon is discovered on the planet Archean, 3 factions head to the planet for all-out war. You'll be able to play as one of 3 factions, the Space Marines, the Elder, or the Orcs. The battles in this game are epic, and they span across different types of beautiful environments. There's also multiplayer where you can take part in skirmishes against other players. And finally, at number 1, we have Divinity Original Sin 2. This is a turn-based RPG and obviously a sequel to Divinity Original Sin. You pick your race and your origin story, and you set off into the world. You have to build up your party and travel the world, but you don't have to do it alone. You can play with up to 3 other players with its drop-in and drop-out co-op. The game is currently in early access, but the full release is coming soon. If the early access game says anything about the full release, we're gonna have a good game on our hands. And we have some bonus games that we couldn't fit on the list, including Agents of Mayhem, the newest game from the Saints Row developers Volition, Metal Gear Survive, which we aren't going to talk about, Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, which looks really cool, Squad, which is currently in early access but is getting a full release this year, John Wick Chronicles, which is a VR game that puts you in the shoes of John Wick, and it looks awesome, and Project Cars 2 is also expected to come out this year as well. So that's 25 new PC games coming out this year that we think are worth checking out. I know, there's a lot, and it's easy to get lost in them. Liking this video really helps us out, and we put out videos like this every single day, and the best way to check them out is by subscribing. And once again, I'm Andrew the New Guy, and I'll see you next time right here on gameranx.